Let me just do a brief introduction for Heather Nickerson for us. Some of you may already know her. She's the founder of Artifacts, but before that, she both grew and led a private security firm, and she is an established thought leader in the privacy and security industry. She has written a book called Shield Your Privacy, which is great, by the way. I just recently looked at it. And it is all about helping both individuals and families to protect their privacy. She started her career as an intelligence analyst with the CIA, including serving a brief period of time in the war zone tour in Afghanistan. And she is the person who has put together our privacy advocate course. So I am going to turn it over to Heather. She's going to go through her top 10. We'll have a little bit of time at the end for some questions. Heather.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kimberly, and good afternoon to everyone. Excited to be here and excited to help debunk the top 10 privacy myths when it comes to photos and photo managing. Thank you, Kimberly, for the introduction, and a big thank you to Kathy and Isabel and the entire photo management team for putting this together, because I do think it's a very important topic. I am going to dive right into content. So we have 30 minutes to debunk the top 10 myths. I will say that before jumping into the slides, that in creating this module, I spent the past 6 months talking with photo managers across the country, also overseas as well. And I kept hearing a lot of the same either questions or statements sometimes posed as questions. So a lot of what we're going to be debunking today, those top myths, I think 8 of the 10 have actually come directly from the photo management group writ large. And I thought I wanted to take the time and really dive in, debunk them, and then, of course, answer any questions at the end. So with that, we're going to dive into it. Hopefully, it'll be informative, also fun. And for those of you that don't know me, let me just say, I do believe privacy is a basic human right, and it's something we all need to do more to protect and to be aware of, and also to start talking more about. So without further ado, let's dive right into the top 10 myths about photo privacy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to take the first myths 1 through 3. These are the top 3 things I have heard the past, I want to say 6 months in working with the photo managers and talking a lot with Kathy and Isabel. The first thing I've heard, I can't count the number of times, is that no one knows me. And I think the assumption here is that, well, no one knows me. So why do I have to worry about my privacy? Or why do I have to worry about my online security? I'm just, like Heather Nickerson, and I live a pretty simple life in Washington, D.C. No one knows me. Number 2 myth is that I'm not that important. I think a lot of times when we talk about privacy or security, maybe we come to mind like movie stars or professional athletes or people that have security entourages or people that have, a lot of kind of fame and fortune. They're the ones that need to protect their privacy and security. Not the case at all. It applies to all of us. And myth number 3 is that no one wants my info. I've heard this a lot, not just the past 6 months working with photo managers, but also over the entirety of my career, is that no one really wants my info. Not true at all. We're going to bust all 3 of these myths all at the same time. So first and foremost, when we think about these 3, the no one knows me, I'm not that important, and no one really wants my info, it doesn't take much for someone to compromise your identity or to hack into your email account or even, your credit card account or a social media account. And once they're in, once a bad guy is in and has compromised your identity or has compromised your access to one of your accounts, they can run havoc in that account. It doesn't take a whole lot to do even the simplest of cyber breaches, which could be spoofing an email address. It pretty much takes just your name and what seems to be a legitimate email, as well as a little bit of knowledge about either your family or your business. And I'll give you an example. I probably receive between 3 and 4 spoofed emails every day. And I get them, what looks to be from legitimate email addresses. A spoofed email is when someone sends an email that it appears to be coming from someone you know. So in my case, maybe it appears to be coming from my business partner, and she's asking me to make payment on an invoice. If I click down into the arrow that shows the metadata behind that email, I see it's not my business partner, but it is, like John Smith from something, something, something.ru. For those of you that don't know, .ru means it's originating in Russia. Or it could be any sort of other email address. But the fact is, it's not my business partner, and it's really not a legitimate request. And if I click that link or download that invoice, or worse yet, wired those funds, I would have inadvertently had malware or a virus, or even worse, sent money without knowing it. So again, all that someone really needs to do to spoof an email, they need to know a little bit about me, my name. So how do they introduce, like, Dear Heather, or Hello Heather, or Hey Heather. They need to know what my email is, which is pretty easy to find. I run a business. They also need to know a little bit about my relationship. So who is my business partner? In this case, the business example, or in the family sense, who's my sibling, who's my parent, who's my child. Spoofed emails aren't just a business concern. They happen to families. Sometimes you have, fake emails from people, they've spoofed them. And if they know, say, from social media or things that you're sharing about yourself, or even just doing a little bit of, Googling about you, who you are, your name, your family, they can figure out maybe you've got a child overseas who's studying abroad, and you get a spoofed email that looks like it's from your child asking for another $500 because they're traveling and they need more money for the plane ticket or the train ticket. Who of us wouldn't quickly click the Venmo link or click the, PayPal link and send them the funds? They play off of our social, kind of our desire to help and do well and to help our family, help business partners. But that's, again, it doesn't take much. You don't have to have someone physically hack into your device or physically breach a financial account to do financial harm to you, or to spoof your email, to impersonate you as an individual. So the fact that, I hear a lot that no one knows me, I'm not that important, no one wants my info. Well, I can tell you all three are not true. Bad guys are willing to essentially use any identity or any method to try to make money. It doesn't cost them a whole lot to send a fake email or spoofed email, hoping you're going to click the link and do whatever happens next. There's very little to lose on their end and a whole lot to gain. And talking about that gain, victims of cybercrime here in the US lose on average $5,300 based on the most recent data from 2022. That's a lot of money when you think about that. So again, you may think I'm not famous, I'm not a celebrity, or no one really cares about me and my information. It's not so much that they care, they're looking for you as a person, to target you because you are, I'm Heather Nickerson and this is my background, this is me. It's simply you are someone that, they may send out 10,000 emails in a day. And if they only get a couple of people to click and follow through, they've made an easy $10,000, $15,000. So it's not necessarily you and who you are, other than the fact that you are an individual here in the US with an email address, and they can easily find out your name and some very simple information about you. So debunking myths 1 through 3. Know that it's not true. It does matter who you are and where you are, and all the information can be used, if in the wrong hands, for the wrong purposes. So please don't think that just because you're not a celebrity or a sports star or a movie star, that it doesn't matter. Your privacy and security does matter. And essentially, it can be used against you if fallen into the wrong hands. So let's move on to myth number 4. Oops. I've also heard a lot that it's just a photo. And I think when I hear that, I think the insinuation is, why does it matter? It's a photo. There are so many photos. Who cares about my photos, my vacation photos? Who cares about my kids going off to school photos, or my, I hear all these excuses, and it comes down to it's just a photo. It's not that important. I want to say, let's pause for a moment. And even if you're not a professional photo manager, even if you're someone who's joining us today, who's new to the entire photo management business, think about all the photos you've taken over your lifetime and all of the bits of information that are in those photos. On the screen, I'm sharing a photo that I took on a recent vacation my husband and I did down to Playa del Carmen in Mexico with some of our friends. And you get all these wristbands from all the different like cenotes or snorkeling areas that you go to. And I chose this photo because it doesn't show any of our faces, it doesn't show any of our like individuals, like personal identifying information, but there's still a lot of information in that photo. You can know the resort that we stayed in. You can know the places we went. You can even figure out the times of day. If you look, you zoom in closely and see the date timestamps on the tickets. It's insane the amount of information that's included in photos. Photos themselves are treasure troves of data. So if you think it's just a photo, it doesn't matter, step back for a moment and think about what's actually in that photo. What can someone learn from it? Locations, names, and dates are all very common to glean from photos. People take photos of inside their homes. If you're a bad guy, let's say you're a petty criminal, you're on your local Facebook group or wherever you happen to be, kind of you're lurking around and someone's posting photos of inside their house, you're like, hey, they've got a really nice TV. And wow, look at that, you know, whatever it happens to be, that collection of thingamabobs. Who knows what you're looking at or what you're after? But our photos, again, like show so much. There were several cases, I want to say 3 or 4 years back, one after the other in the Chicago area, where police actually busted a ring of petty criminals who were using a local Facebook group to target homes for robbery based on what the photos were showing on Facebook. And it's the whole, like, yeah, they had a nice TV. Great. That's where we're going next. Think about kind of Home Alone, but Home Alone in the digital age. There was no need to go door to door, knock on the door and person a police officer to see what's inside the homes. They had the Facebook group right there at their disposal. And they were just basically running amok in that group. So that's just one, again, is an extreme example, but still it's photos have all that data. Another big thing that photos shows, if you're posting photos while you're away on vacation, guess what? They're showing that you're away on vacation. That's like an open invite if you have, again, petty criminals or others looking to do harm while you're away. One of my favorite, I think, well, I shouldn't say favorite, least favorite, but I have a lot of friends who have children coming into driving age or going off to college. And I have all these photos on different social platforms of folks, you know, posing their child with their driver's license or their child with their brand new school ID. And it's just like, no, like think about all that information that's on that piece of ID, be it driver's license or school ID. The other thing I see a lot too is sometimes new mothers, like you have a very excited grandparent posting the photo of their child and their grandchild, and you have the hospital wristbands in the photo. It's amazing the information you can get from those photos. Again, if you're a bad guy who's out to do harm, I'm not saying that every person who ever views any one of your photos is going to do something bad with it. But again, the myth is that it's just a photo, and that is not true. It's a treasure trove of information. So I would just say, think before you click, and especially before you share, what exactly is in that photo, and recognize it's more than just a photo. And we haven't, this is just kind of the surface stuff that you can see. We haven't even gone into the metadata that's behind the photo if someone downloads a digital copy of it. But if you're thinking about just simply having a photo in a photo book or an online platform, it's more than just a photo. All right, moving along to our 5th myth. Very similar and closely tied to it's just a photo is also, I hear a lot of it's just Facebook, or it's just Instagram, or it's just Pinterest, or it's just, you know, name your social media platform of choice. That said, there's a lot that we don't, once you actually post and share a photo or any other digital media file, be it a short video snippet or a photo collage, whatever that happens to be. Once you share it, it is beyond your control. You could share it with a family or friends only group and have a family or friend take a screenshot because they really want to share with their group of friends. Like, hey, this is really cool. Heather took this awesome trip down to Playa del Carmen, and these are the places she went to, and boop, off it goes. You have no control once you've publicly or even privately posted something like that. And the other thing, the other myth about it's just Facebook, or again, it's just, I don't mean to pick solely on Facebook. It's just, you know, insert your social media platform of choice, is that typically they are not privacy first platforms. Their goal is to be social, is to share the information, share the data. So you have to always go in and ensure that your privacy settings are up to date. So though it may seem to be a very simple act of taking a photo, posting it over, let's say Facebook or Instagram, popping it in there, adding a short caption, off it goes, you've shared a ton of data points. You've shared it either privately or, semi-privately to a group, or maybe you've posted it publicly. And then once you've done that, do you really know what your current privacy settings are for how that information is going to be used, not just by those who view it, but then also the company itself? So there's a lot that goes into the whole, it's just Facebook. The entire point here of this myth is to realize it's not simply I take the photo and I post it, but understanding there's a whole lot more that goes into what happens behind the scenes with the digital data, essentially your digital data, your information. And it's not as simple as saying, it's okay, I'll just post it to Facebook, we'll be good. So be aware what's out there, regardless of the social media platform that you are using. All right. Myths 6 through 7. I'm trying to go as fast as I can through these, so we do have time for Q&A, and it is a 30-minute session, so I know it's a fast pace. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the myths I heard regarding businesses, specifically photo management businesses, over the past 6 months. And I've heard two, probably in equal number. First is, I have a small business, I'm not a target. And whenever I hear this, I have to pause and be like, yes, but you still have a business. You're still making money doing whatever it is you're doing in your business, and you're still transacting. And chances are, if you're working in the photo management field, you have at least a digitally enabled business, or part of your business, you're functioning online, be it emailing clients, receiving and sending invoices and payments. You still have a business. There's still transactions occurring. The second myth that falls into this business category is that I don't make that much money. And I think this is probably, we all have in our own minds what that much money is. But it's not, I think we're not talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations or multi-million-dollar corporations. That doesn't matter. The fact that you are making money in your business, that's, to a hacker, to a cyber bad guy, that's all they need to know, is that you're running a business and you're making money, which means there's a chance that they can steal money from you. So when I hear, I don't make that much money, hackers won't go after me, I usually have to pause and say, yes, but you're still making money. Let's go back, back up to the first slide, the first myth. Again, $5,300 on average for an individual cost of a cyber hack or a breach. The small business, the average just ransomware alone, we're not talking about data breaches, data spills, ransomware alone costs small businesses just under $6,000 a year. So again, you don't have to be a multi-million-dollar corporation to be targeted for a cyber attack or a cyber, and in this case, the ransomware example for ransomware. You could have someone that knows just enough about you and your business to spoof an email, get you to click on a link or download a fraudulent invoice. It's really not an invoice or an accounts payable receipt. But once you click that link or download that invoice or whatever it happens to be, the attachment, you've now unlocked a malware or a virus that's going to lock down your system. And the next contact you get from the individual is going to ask you for a ransom payment. And it could be as small as $5,000. And chances are, if you're working on, say you've got a client project due next week, and the client's paying you, let's just make it up, say $10,000. You may in your mind rationalize, okay, I'll pay $5,000, get access to all my information, put this problem behind me, and I'll submit the final project and get paid the $10,000, whatever that rationale happens to be. But you can see very quickly how even small businesses are targeted by cyber criminals. In fact, 46% of cyber attacks from last year, from 2022, targeted small businesses. That's nearly half of all cyber attacks. So if you think, I'm running a small business, or I'm running a business, but it's not making that much money, The bad guys don't see it that way. They still see you as having a profitable, legitimate business. And in their mind, you're an ideal target because you are, just for that fact, because you are a small business and you likely don't have all of the security protocols that some of the larger companies have. So that's why, again, 46% of cyber attacks last year targeted small businesses. They know they can make a very quick buck and then move on. So just if you think I'm running a small business, it doesn't apply to me, myth busted. That's not the case at all. It applies. I think good cybersecurity, good cyber privacy habits apply to everyone, regardless of the size of your business. All right, moving on to myth 8. It's okay to share my password with my family or with my photo manager or with my client. So I will admit, I was new to the photo management world a couple of years back. And after giving the keynote at the Orlando conference, I had so many people come up to me afterwards saying, oh my gosh, I've been sharing my password all these years with, and they list off the string of people or the string of examples. And to me, coming from a background of privacy and security, I was floored. I was like, what do you mean you've been sharing your password? They're like, well, this is how we work. This is how, they give me their iCloud password, or I give them a password to a photo management or organizing site I've set up for them. And we work on a project and we do this. And I was like, wow, okay. Rule number 1 is do not share your password. But understanding how this works, I think for you all, and talking with Kathy and Isabel and other folks who are on the Photo Managers Advisory Board, I've come to understand it is part of essentially how business has been done to date. I'd love to have the conversation starting with, okay, it's not ideal to share your password. Are there other ways to do this? Are there other ways essentially to have good cyber hygiene while still not interfering with the business? I don't have, I'm not going to say it has to be this way or that way. I think you all are able to make very smart decisions when it comes to how you do your business workflows. But I did want to bust the myth that it's okay to share the password. And the reason it's not okay is that it leaves room for error. Nearly 100% of cyber crimes, hacks, and data spills are caused by human error. When you think about that, it's not, yes, there are sometimes those one-off cases where you are randomly targeted and you've got some super duper AI-based malware algorithm going after a specific device. Those are very, very few and far between. Typically what happens is that you or an employee in your firm gets an email, it's a spoofed email, they're asking you to download a link or an attachment or click on something, you do it, or they do it, and now you've opened yourself up to whatever that happens to be, from ransomware to malware to virus to whatever else it is. So again, it's human error. It still takes humans to actually click or download or do something for the bad guys to gain access to your systems. So when you share a password, even with the best intent, it still opens up the door to someone else having access to the same account that you share. And if you don't know or can't control their cyber hygiene habits, it does leave room for error. So I just want us to get all thinking about, okay, so how can we avoid the situation where you're creating unnecessary risk for yourself or your business or even the client or their family, whatever that happens to be? How can we avoid unnecessary risk? How can we, move from always sharing passwords to maybe just for very specific durations, and then the passwords are changed or reset, but just understanding it's not okay to share a password and never change that password and share the same password for months and months and months and months and months. Think about passwords as they are the keys to the kingdom in some cases. So myth number 8, it's okay to share my password. Nope, not okay. And there's so many reasons why. All right, moving quickly on to number 9. I know we're running a little bit long. I want to make sure you get Q&A. I often have heard that I don't need a strong password. And then I sometimes will be like, what do you mean? Tell me why you don't need a strong password. And the answer is usually, well, I've got 8 characters and letters and numbers, and no one's going to guess my dog's name and my child's birthday. And it's like, well, Let's think about that for a minute. So to bust this myth, it takes a hacker, or would take a hacker, roughly 5 minutes to hack a password that has 8 characters of just letters and numbers. Hackers these days are using advanced technology, including artificial intelligence, to quickly roll through passwords and to decrypt or to hack the actual passwords. So when I say a strong password, I don't need a strong password. A strong password is between 18 and 26 characters and must include an uppercase, a lowercase, a number, and a special character, like an @ exclamation point, hashtag, you name it. If you use a strong password that is 18 characters or more, it is going to take a hacker, even using AI technology, roughly 400 trillion years to hack that password. So although you may think that no one's going to guess your dog's name and your child's birthday, and it's 8 characters and it's a great password, it could take a hacker 5 minutes. So yes, you do need a strong password. Pretty please use a strong password. That is myth 9, busted. And our last myth, for kind of our top 10, one that I've heard throughout my entire career: public Wi-Fi is safe. And I even once had someone tell me, well, if it wasn't safe, why would they offer it? Let me just be very clear right here. No, 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 no. A really, really big no. Please do not use public Wi-Fi. The photo I have here on the screen is I took a screenshot of my phone this morning. I set up my personal hotspot to be called Save Your Photos Month right here. And let's just say we were at a conference together, and we were at the Save Your Photo Month conference together, and we're in the conference room. You're looking for that Wi-Fi hotspot, and you see Save Your Photos Month. Great, they're giving you free Wi-Fi. This is awesome. Click, you log on. I happen to be a bad guy. I make it publicly open. It's not password protected. You're now on my network. I can now see every keyword that you were doing. So if you happen to log into your bank account, awesome, I got your login info. If you log into your email, same thing. You go shopping on Amazon, fabulous. You've given me the keys to the kingdom. So please do not use public Wi-Fi. Essentially the two tips, and we dive into this much more in the privacy course. But if you are out and about, either tether to your personal hotspot, either on your phone, or you can buy a standalone hotspot at any major wireless carrier. Or if you happen to be stranded somewhere and have to use Wi-Fi, please use a virtual private network or a VPN to access the Wi-Fi with. You can, any number of companies offer virtual private networks. I personally like Bitdefender, and I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. It's what I've used, what security professionals really like. But please do not use public Wi-Fi. It is way too easy to essentially hack or spoof, and it puts you and your data at risk. So with that, those are the top 10 myths. That was really quick. I'm going to turn it over to Isabel to have a brief mention about the privacy advocacy course, and then I think we got a couple of minutes for Q&A. So thank you. Isabel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Heather. This was great and a lot of information in 30 minutes. Before we head into Q&A, I wanted to share quickly about the Privacy Advocate course. And Heather, do you mind sharing your slide again, just so that everyone can see what's included? So this is a very comprehensive course that covers everything that you need to know as far as protecting yourself, protecting your business, and protecting your clients. And it's a course that Heather has put together with us, and a co-instructor, Allison Friedman, who's here on the call with us as well. She is a former attorney who has now become a certified photo manager. And as part of this training, you get 4.5 hours of video training and video instruction. Included with that is also a few other resources, a client checklist and resource guide. And then if you have questions throughout the course, we do also offer quarterly Q&A sessions with Heather. So anything that isn't answered today in the Q&A, feel free to keep those for the quarterly Q&A sessions with Heather as well. So if you're interested in this course, we do have a launch special available through the end of September. You can save 25% off the course. And anything else that you wanted to add to that, Heather, before we head into Q&A?
No, I've got nothing else to add other than I hope privacy, we all need to talk about it. Like I said before, we all need to do more about it. And please don't feel overwhelmed by what I just shared in the past 30 minutes. There are so many things that you as individuals can do day in, day out to protect your privacy.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. So we have a few questions about spoofing. And in the case of being spoofed, is that a sign of a breach on your end, the recipient, or is the spoof name, is it the spoof name on the sender's side?
So it depends a little bit on what is the context of the spoof. If you are receiving a spoofed email and it looks like it's coming, say, let's say in my case, looks like my husband sent me an email. So it's matt@gmail.com. If I click into that and I really see that it's, Joe Smith at something.ru, that is not my husband. In that case, it's most likely his email has not been breached or hacked, but someone knows enough about him to know that he's married to me. And, maybe the email is asking me to download a copy of our tax returns. And if I were to click that link and download that copy of my tax returns to review, it wouldn't be my tax returns, and it'd likely have a malware or a virus as embedded in that link when I clicked. If, however, you have the other part of spoofing sometimes is that when someone can gain access to your emails, they've hacked into your system, and now they're sending outgoing messages as you, but they're routing it through a different, essentially a different sender, although it's still looking like it's coming from you. That is much more rare, and that is not very common to see. But I don't want to give the impression that if you're spoofed, you don't have to worry about it, just delete the email, it's good to go. There are very few such cases where if there's a spoofed email, it has gained access to either your or someone else's system to gain either some of that information or to impersonate that account. But 9 out of 10 times, if you receive a spoofed email, if you delete it, that's all you have to do. You don't have to worry about it. You may want to let the other person know that they're being spoofed, but there's really not a whole lot they can do about it either, other than simply being aware or letting their friends know, hey, if you receive an email from me asking for X, Y, and Z, it's not me, just delete it or don't click on it.
And can the email metadata itself be spoofed? For example, if you hover over the spoofed email, is that by any chance spoofed itself?
It can't be spoofed in the traditional sense of like someone spoofing over the actual data. However, a bad guy can use a VPN just the way that we can use a VPN to come out looking like if they're based in, let's just say, China or Russia or somewhere else, they can use a VPN to tunnel out, look like they're coming from the UK or the US. So it could be that your email looks like legitimately is coming from an IP address based in the same area or country that the spoofed email sender is coming from. So there are ways to make it look very, very realistic. But again, these are slightly more advanced techniques. The most common thing is that if you get a spoofed email, you click down the little metadata, you can see right away it's spoofed. I would say in my cases, working with private families and individuals in the privacy realm, again, probably 9 times out of 10, it was easy to recognize a spoof. And the only times I can think of where you had a more advanced operation was just that they were targeting an individual because of their affiliation with their company. And it was really more on the corporate espionage side than it was on just the individual, like trying to gain something monetary from the transaction. So again, it could, with enough technical know-how, it is possible to further deceive. However, most common cyber criminals don't go to those means necessary because it does take extra time and extra know-how.
And is previewing an attachment the same as opening it as far as danger from an attack?
No, if you hover over and you get a little pop-up, like if you're in Outlook, it kind of pops up a preview. Gmail does something similar. So as long as you do not click, you do not download, you are not opening up whatever that happens to be. But the moment you click to download or you click to click the link or to go. A very common one I've seen these days is fake DocuSign requests. So you get a request and it's a DocuSign, and it may be a colleague of yours, it may be who knows, like an accountant, like someone that you are known to interact with. They send you the DocuSign. If you just see the preview in your inbox, you're not going to do any harm by that. If you open it and click and go through that link, that's when you're exposing yourself to the harm. I will just make one note. A lot of the spoofed emails, especially if they're coming from Microsoft or DocuSign, you can tell right away because visually it's very pixelated. Like it's a very poor job, because typically the cyber criminal has taken a screenshot and then they've gone in and kind of edited it in whatever software they choose to edit it in, to say what they want to say. But if you compare a real email from DocuSign and a spoofed email, you can visually tell right away. So if you get that email, you're seeing the preview and like, oh, that does not look right. Trust your gut. It does not look right, because it's not right. They have taken that screenshot, they've edited it, and now they're sending it via a spoofed email.
So we have a few questions about passwords, about, first of all, password managers, if those are recommended, and if so, what password managers are recommended. And for those that do work with clients, how to effectively and securely also share passwords with clients.
Yes, password managers are definitely recommended. It's much better than doing nothing or doing post-it notes or notebooks, whatever that happens to be. We go into this in depth in the privacy advocacy course. As far as recommendations, we've got part of the course materials is a checklist, but 1Pass, LastPass, Bitdefender, there's just a whole bunch of folks that do Keeper. I personally use Keeper, my family, for password management, because we have, with all the kids all over, like literally all over the country, we have a family account that enables us to have our own individual private passwords, but also share some of the family-based passwords. And then that's another, again, so if you're talking about how do you share passwords with clients, we do address this in the privacy advocacy course. But one way is using a password manager that has kind of a multi account feature, like a Keeper, or I think even LastPass has that now. You could also, over secure encrypted apps, Signal, SIGNAL is a great way. Wicker, WICKR is another one. You can text passwords to clients that way. So you could always generate the password, text it to them via secure encrypted means. And it's much safer and more reliable than exchanging via email or however that's being done before.
And we have two questions about Wi-Fi. The first one is a hotel Wi-Fi considered public? And the second one is, what about Wi-Fi that's available in a public library that has a password?
Yes, so hotel Wi-Fi is definitely public. And think about it, any hotel guest can access that password, that can access the Wi-Fi. So even if you check in and you have to put your last name, your room number, anyone else staying in the hotel with their last name and room number can access that Wi-Fi. So if you happen to be a bad guy, and let's say you spend $99, stay at the Marriott Residence Inn, and you access the Wi-Fi, and then you do your bad guy stuff to start seeping out over the network and collecting the information. Because again, there's a lot of, if you are a cyber criminal, there are methods and programs even to help you, once you gain access to a network, gain access to the devices connected to the network, which means your phone or your iPad or your laptop, whatever that happens to be. So even if it has that, again, in a hotel, the room number and your name, anyone that has legitimate name and room number can access that Wi-Fi. You don't know who they are and what they're doing. The same exact thing goes with public libraries as well. So although there's a password, anyone that is in the public library using that password has access to the network. Same thing with coffee shops. I'm always really surprised when I'm in a coffee shop waiting in line and you look around the tables and you see someone like, someone's doing their taxes or someone's doing banking, and you're just like, you're doing this over public Wi-Fi. So even though there's a password and it's coffee shop 2023, it's anyone that's sitting in that coffee shop can be using the same Wi-Fi. And you have no control over who that is and what they're doing, which is why I think there's the whole, again, a myth that public Wi-Fi is safe. Even if it's a password protected Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, it's still not safe.
Awesome. So we have a few other questions, but due to time, I will wrap us up with one question about what would you do if, or are there any resources available to victims for those that are hacked or spoofed?
That's a great question as well. And I wish in the US we had a single answer. So we cover this in depth in the privacy advocacy course. If you're based in the US, there is no overarching federal protection for those who have been a victim of a cyber crime. It varies state by state. And really only 5 states actually have any protections whatsoever. The most robust being California. So if you, in most cases, depending on where you are, the best resources are going to be probably nonprofits that work to protect privacy or cybersecurity. That's why the business of being a cybersecurity professional it's one of the fastest growing industries here in the US, because there's no 911 to call. And when you are breached or hacked or you become a victim of identity theft, you turn most often to private companies. That's why even when you think about some of the really big data breach cases we have in the US, like Target or Blue Cross Blue Shield or even the federal government, after they get hacked, you typically get a letter in the mail and they're telling you our solution is that we're going to give you a year's worth of monitoring from Experian or whatever the private service they're providing and paying for the year, because there is essentially, again, there's no 911 to call when something like that happens. If you're living in Europe or living in Canada, yes, there are tremendous resources, and you can start by going kind of to your local government and they will point you in the right direction. But if you're in the US, it's kind of still the wild, wild west out here. So.
Great. Thank you, Heather. There's so much great information there. I really appreciate you joining us. We all appreciate you being with us. Again, take a look at the privacy advocacy course. It's a great course. I was telling Heather before we started that I've already gone partway through it, and I think I've changed 5 things already, and I thought I was pretty safe. So take a look at that. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on a future session.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Isabel, and thank you, Kimberly.